So it started, and now the stage is yours, Kellyn. Please go ahead.
Why, thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. And there we go. Let me bring my presentation up so I can see what I'm doing. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kellyn Gorman. If you don't know who I am the multi-platform and AI advocate and engineer also at Redgate. I've been around for 30 years. I live on a floating home on the Columbia River in Portland. No, that isn't a houseboat. It isn't a barge. It is actually a home that floats on the river. I have 10 meters of water underneath my house, and I love it. I'm looking out at sailboats right now. It's very lovely. But I'm married. I have 5 grown kids, and I work for Redgate. I've been there 2.5 years. I work very deeply with the engineering group, and I go around and I speak at a lot of conferences. Most people know me for Oracle. I'm kind of the weird Oracle girl that Microsoft adopted, but I mostly build right now Postgres and AI features within Redgate products. And then I speak on those things. I do a lot of keynotes and that. I did like 11 keynotes last year, so there's a lot of it. But AI is a big deal. I need a lot to keep me busy, and outside of my role at Redgate, I am also an AI advisor for companies. This happened pretty grassroots and ended up being brought into organizations an hour, 2 hours a week to come in and help them kind of navigate the hurdles of what's going on in AI. And we know that data is feeding it. It seemed like a natural progression for me because databases were so valuable to feeding AI and getting the right information from it, because it's that garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have data feeding it that is valuable, AI is not going to be able to produce great results. So we realize that our databases have 328 million terabytes. I mean, this is a lot of data. I think I probably could have gotten to petabytes here. It didn't have to do it in terabytes, but you get the gist here. There's a lot of data out there, and this is just our relational systems. This isn't talking about our flat files and everything else. 73% of enterprise data, it is unanalyzed and unused right now. I mean, it is not being accessed by AI. We still have a long way to go. I'm seeing this from companies when they bring me in and say, hey, Kellyn, I need you to sit down and help our leadership figure out where we're going to go and when we're going to open up the floodgates for AI. And data-driven organizations want to see a return on investment. And this is what they want to see, 4.5 times. This is what they're hoping to see on it. Doesn't always happen. I am very aware that a lot of companies are not getting where they want. There's a lot of risk, and that's something that I speak on a lot, is around shadow AI. We're going to talk a lot about shadow AI. So we're going to go from where the promise is, how you can kind of get there. And I'm not going to talk a lot about databases, and that's probably going to surprise a lot of you, but this is where I'm at. We usually hear a lot about Azure SQL and Fabric and how to protect that and how to set up, role level security and everything. That's not where I'm going with this. I'm talking about what needs to be protected outside of it. Somebody can say you're concerned about your car being stolen, but it's not just about locking the doors. It's about putting it in the garage, locking the doors to the garage, locking the doors in your house. I'm talking about the entire ecosystem. And so we're going to cover some of that today. And the way that Microsoft sees this is that they see it across the end-to-end security. So we're going to talk a little bit about Entra, a little bit about Purview, a little bit about Sentinel, and a little bit about Intune, but what you're really going to see me talk about is Microsoft Defender, because it's something that I love and something that I recommend a lot. I will also tell you what products are like these that are in the competitor market as well. I'll list them, and these slides will be available for download along with my example dashboards that I have completely scrubbed of any data, so you can kind of use those if you want to go back to your leadership and go, hey, we should be doing this. You shouldn't be counting on me to protect the keys to the kingdom. So this slide here, I really love that Microsoft's privacy commitment and what they say about AI and the way that they're doing it. I really do love it. But I also want to talk about it's a shared responsibility. This does not guarantee that your data will always be protected and that people will not do something foolish with your data and create breaches. Some of the first breaches that I ended up dealing with were really concerning to me. My very first one that I dealt with on an actual AI project was loan data that the actual super users wanted to help out with AI, and they uploaded it to create trends and analysis in the free version of ChatGPT. And I had to come back and say, you have 140,000 users that now have been involved in a breach. They didn't understand. It wasn't intentional. These things happen. And we have to understand that most of the time it's internal hackers that occur. It's not outside. Of course, we're all worried about outside. There's a lot of issues that are happening. If you are bored and you don't want to sleep anymore, TLDR has their InfoSec newsletter. You can get that every day that tells you how many hacks are going on and what's happening. But knowing about this and understanding that it's a shared commitment between you and Microsoft and building this the right way is really important, because we have data everywhere. Democratization of data is really a big deal. AI is going to do better if it has more data to feed from, so they want to get access to all of this data, and sensitive data is involved in a lot of this. Again, 60% of breaches are involved by internal actors. We talk about like the Samsung breach. They opened up AI within 20 days. They had 3 breaches. Some of it was confidential conversations. Some of it was roadmap plans. Some of it was actual critical information about their internal code. Just realizing that people may not be trained effectively on AI and not realize what they're doing and create these situations. The other is shadow IT versus shadow AI. Now, shadow IT, we all kind of knew from the olden days when somebody had a server, they had some budget, they would decide to do something when they were told that, hey, let's say you're a SQL Server shop and somebody needed an Oracle database with an application, and all of a sudden they've got users running on it, it becomes production, and then they go, well, we need to move that in the server room, and it becomes your problem. When it was outside that authorized, used through operations, that was shadow IT. Shadow AI is when somebody says, you know what, I need to do this task and I want to do it faster. Hey, I just got an account through ChatGPT. I'm going to use it and do this. It's not authorized by the company. Maybe you only use Copilot. That means that is shadow AI, and that is outside the approved authorized policies of AI. And it can create situations where you have breaches as well as you have issues with data sharing. The other one is compliance. Of course, we are all sensitive to GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA, and all of these other AI regulations that are coming down the pipe. A lot of people are starting to realize that if you don't have policy and guidance before you ever open up the first AI project, floodgates open and you have a real issue. It is never enough, though. As much as we get into multi-cloud complexity and all of these environments and understanding that if it's in the cloud, it's not guaranteed protected. If it's on-prem and you've built it yourself, there's not guaranteed protection there either. You need to have that access control. And there are tools out there to do that. And I think that's really, really important, is that people thought policy and guidance is enough. And I tell them very clearly, no, you must have actual products built in. You need to have actual guidance and control that stops it from ever happening. That is part of what I build. So as we work with this, we have to realize that AI is everywhere. We all hear this. Just rub a little AI on it. It'll fix everything. It is embedded in every single product. Whoever decided Notepad needed Copilot, they should be taken out back and shot. We'll just be honest. I mean, we're seeing this. Adobe Reader, it's pretty much unusable because somebody decided it needed AI in it and pop-ups everywhere. We have AI built in everywhere, but is it approved AI and is it safe for use inside your organization? May not be true. And so we need to have these products to come in and say, this AI is authorized, this is not, and shut it down, even if they let the application still function without the AI features. We need to have sensitivity labels to decide what data is acceptable to be out in the public realm, what should be just confidential inside the company, what should be confidential at certain areas, and what's PII. We need to have the ability to audit and do compliance logging. All of that should be set up. So in the Microsoft field, what we're going to talk about a little bit is Entra, Purview. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on Defender for Cloud Apps and also show you an actual Cloud Apps dashboard, as well as a risk analysis report so you can see what those look like. Azure OpenAI services, and then the Azure policy. What do these mean? Why are those logs extremely important? So Enter ID is out there, but I think a lot of people, we think of like Active Directory, we don't realize how much is built into Enter ID. Along with the user group and identify capabilities that are in there, it also will look at device compliance. Let's say somebody isn't up to date on their patches. It can go out there and say, this isn't healthy, and with Intune, it can shut things down. The locations, if somebody comes from a location that's, they're saying they're both in, let's say the US and China, it can shut it down and go, this isn't possible, so I'm not going to let this person in. Application sensitivity, it's going to realize that different policies are required for different apps, and it can be built into the rules base. And then I have risk score to decide, is it allowed? Is this something that's safe? I have these actual scores that decide if I'm going to let something in that I've never seen before. And then set up different strength depending if it's multi-factor authentication or FIDO. Say even if it's just a password that they want to do, that's all capable within that. The features that are all of there in there is to stop this ever coming in. You don't want people to come in there. If you ever look at the diagnosis of a breach, it's very fascinating. Some of these go on for years, where somebody just gets inside with an account, they log into the network, and then they find a way that they're able to log into a database. And then they go from there, and they have no rights, but they'll start pushing on those passwords until they can get in there. And then they find out that they can actually do SQL injection. And this, again, could go on for years before they actually find a way to breach data. So understanding that this is that first step. We're stopping them at the gates, making sure that they can't come in. Privileged identity management is something very fascinating to me, that instead of enhancing somebody's privileges up to a domain admin, it'll say, you're allowed to have these privileges for just an hour, and then it will automatically remove them. You don't need a person to go in there and remove them later on. It's only there for that time. That we can set up and look for phishing, that we can stop people before they're actually doing these kind of, hacker activities, that we have least privilege enforcement, that we will log all of it, that we're going to look at the compliance and regulation alignment for SOX, HIPAA, SOC 2, ISO, and we're able to log all of that and bring that to an auditor if we're going through an actual audit, and we will meet those requirements that they're going through. If you're trying to figure out what you have on Enter ID, I went and built out this kind of little quick, what's free, what's P1, P2, because I love like PIM. PIM is really great, just in time, but it's only available for actual P2 on Enter ID licensing. So you need to know that. You can't just say, oh, I want this enabled for anybody who's trying to work on one of my SQL Server database servers. I want to make sure that is set up in there. You need to make sure that you do have that type of licensing for your Enter ID as well. So the access management outside that, what could you use if somebody says, well, you know what, we're not going to pay for Enter. What else do we have available to us? These are those other options that are there. Okta, Ping Identity, Jump Cloud. These are competitors. You can look at those. They are available. So if you're interested, just download the slides and you can look into those as well. And I went and built out a comparison identity product so you could actually look at these. If you were looking for a full Enter replacement, you can use these combinations to kind of meet those requirements that you see in the list here. So knowing your data, Purview, I always get mixed response for people with Purview because I know it's expensive. I know the costs are incredible, but data lineage is incredibly important. Data mapping, classification. We've kind of lost that. And I think the DBAs were kind of the heads that knew where all the data lived and where it was coming between that and the super users. And now it's kind of fallen into the developers, and the developers are like, this isn't part of my job. I have too many other things to do. So Purview really helps to try to classify that data, set up sensitivity levels. They do it at a level that's very similar to what they were doing with Word documents. That makes it easier to kind of start doing that. The data lineage is very visual. You end up with these graphs. It's really, really important that we start doing this, especially as we democratize and we start doing with data lakes so they don't become like these data swamps, and being able to trace data back up. My husband works in a lot of data warehouse environments, and I swear most of his time is spent trying to figure out where different calculations and metrics went wrong way down into these data marts and tracing it back upstream to figure out where it went wrong from the golden source. To be able to have these kind of data lineage and those data maps where you're able to trace it really saves a lot of time, as well as finding out where the golden source is and knowing what data is right and what data is wrong. The data security and privacy, when we start talking DSPM, these are some of those other options that you can use if you're not looking at Purview because you're like, gosh, it's just too expensive. I have a lot of customers that use Informatica. Again, I come from the Oracle world. Informatica is kind of really in depth right there. So you can use these, but there's a lot of different options for you. So looking for what you're trying to meet, what your requirements are, look at these different products that they could also help you meet those requirements for you. Then we get into machine speed intelligence. When you're looking at SIME, SOAR, all of these other ones, Sentinel is the powerhouse. They have over 300 data connectors. They're going to allow you, like I said, I just showed you Okta. You could connect into Okta. You don't have to just be all Microsoft for this. Sentinel understands that, and it's going to be able to help you. You can set up playbooks so you can automate a lot of this, so you don't expect a human being to do this manually each time. You can make sure that it's on repeat. The threat intelligence that lives into it, that has the connectors for sticks and taxis so that you can make sure that you have all of this set and logging as well as the dashboards so you can monitor it and you know that you're compliant with NIST as well as ISO 27001. Sentinel is going to give you a really nice dashboard. It's going to be able to detect threats before they actually happen. It's going to be able to stop a lot of the alert fatigue that people are feeling because you can start to say, it'll start to notice that some of these alerts are white noise and it'll start to quiet them down and bring the actual anomalies that make sense to your actual dashboard. The connectors were really important and you can get those responses and you can automate responses to them when you know something is happening, shut it down so people don't have to be in the loop all the time. If you're looking for comparison products to Sentinel, these are some of the best alternatives. I went and listed them out there and I also listed the scenarios that you might want to look for that will make you look at what options are out there. I love like Splunk, Datadog, some of these others. I have a number of customers that they may not be as Microsoft centric and they may have looked at some of these solutions you're seeing on the page. Then we get into Intune, and remember that all of these kind of come together in a suite. And that's why I kind of brought these all together, that Intune works with Enter ID very closely. And you're able to do your device management. You're able to, and this is really important for me. The device I'm on right now is a bring your own device, and that I'm able to enroll it, that it's able to make sure that I'm up to date on all of my patching. I had a BIOS that was out of date, and it let me know the other day, and that I needed to update that, even though that I'm not part of my actual operations support and devices that they manage. It was able to let me know that I needed to update that, and I was able to update it and fix a problem that I had with a USB driver. Endpoint privilege management is all set up in there, so you can give local admin rights without having to give them full rights to different devices. That makes a big difference, especially when we start talking about endpoints and device risk there. You get remote help, so they can actually get in there. If you got people that need remote assistance in that, you can build that out, as well as building secure tunnels and VPN gateways. As you need them, you can do that with your bring your own device and make sure that it stays private and you're not going to put any data at risk. Some of these that you're coming in at, endpoints is one of those areas that I think is really hard for DBAs. We've had to learn it, especially if you're working with anything with Fabric. As we start to work with storage, as we bring infrastructure into the entire mix, and we're looking at Parquet files and all these other flat file situations. It's something that we had to learn. And Intune makes it a little bit easier, that you don't have to worry about it so much, that you're not opening it up to the entire world. It will let you know. The dashboards make it very clear. It also can block AI output leakage. So this is one of the things that I love about this, that they built into it. So one of the things it says here, so let's say there's confidential labeled text. You use Purview, you went and identified it and said, this is confidential, it can't go outside of the company, and somebody tried to copy and paste it into a Gmail or WhatsApp or any of those, it'll stop that. It can't be sent outside the company. These are the kind of things that really help with shadow AI. Like I said, you can't really stop people from doing things that just with governance and policy. You need products that will stop that. This is what these kind of products do. And this is one of them. And I show you, Intune with Entra, and then we got Purview that actually set up the actual confidentiality and the actual classification of the data to say this shouldn't go outside the company. So we have those threat and risk scores that say, do not let it happen, and Intune will stop it. Shadow AI is a big deal. I am seeing this in every single company. Right now, the free version of ChatGPT, if you're not aware, 37% of the data in there is PII. It is increasing month after month by 55%. As people kind of look at it, this is what they traditionally use is what we call SWG and CASB, those cloud access security brokers. They're really made for SaaS. They're not made for shadow AI, but they're using these more archaic tools to try to do this. Talked about Samsung. This was what caused their leakage, is that they were using these kind of tools to protect from shadow AI, not realizing that it could not protect them. So that's when we get into Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. A lot of people, if you've gone to any of my sessions before where I talked about data protection in the age of AI and talked about this, you probably also heard me talk about Cloudflare as well as Frantic. I've removed those from my list. They've been having some issues lately, and I really like to only recommend those things that will help. I have a list after this, but no, I'm going to start with Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, and that's where I love this product. That it will look at all cloud apps in use. It will look at all AI that's coming in. It will give you risk scoring that you can set up. This is for your security, your operations group. They're going to set this up. They can block or sanction apps directly from the portal. It's very easy to use. They can detect if somebody's using any kind of AI tools. Doesn't matter if it's ChatGPT, Claude, any of them. Any uploads to that, it will stop. If you say this is not authorized, they can't upload files from it. They can't use it. They can't paste text into it. None of that. It stops it. Full DLP. It inspects the content. It makes sure that it can't happen. It blocks upload. It blocks pasting, all of that. If you have those labels from Purview, it works with that and it makes sure that those labels, it understands those and says, this data came from here. You can't copy and paste it. And that includes for PII, PHI, PCI, all of these different patterns. It already has it built in. That visibility makes a huge difference for customers. This makes a huge difference for organizations because we are talking about all those kind of gap assessments. It doesn't matter if you're talking about GDPR, ISO, SOC, all of them. These are built into it. These have API connectors that can work with those and start looking at weaknesses in your actual environment and your products, such as like Salesforce, GitHub, Google Workspace, all of that is built in. And it has an incident queue, so it can use with Sentinel and actually stop things before it happens if you have also security weaknesses. So I want to show you this. I am going to escape out of here. And this is a completely scrubbed Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. I wanted to show you, though, this is a Shadow AI Discovery dashboard that I built for a customer. And you can see the last 30 days, I'm looking at 847 users. The firewall log's been updated, endpoint sensors. This is all coming in automatically. I have 73 apps, AI apps that are discovered. So 73 apps are using AI. 18 new this month. This is very, very standard. This isn't a big company, but you can see that that many apps have AI in it. Unsanctioned, 61 of them were not. 84% of them were discovered apps. We found these. They were not brought to the operations group. 312 users were exposed, 47 since last week. Data uploaded to AI, 4.2 gigs, included 804 megs of sensitive files. This grabs all of this, and you can export this report so you have a PDF version that you can give your leadership, that you can give people that may be like, nah, this can't be happening. You can do that. It tells you where the data is coming from, the users, the traffic. It gives you a risk score on a score of 10, 0 through 10. And so you can see that as well. And then it gives you status. Monitored, if it was blocked, if it was sanctioned, that means you may have gone through and said this was all right. Microsoft Copilot, is there sanctioned AI, so they're allowed to use that. Ones that are monitored, ChatGPT and Claude, those ones are monitored right now, and then it actually blocked Perplexity and Character AI and Hugging Face, said nope, can't happen. And then it'll tell you how much data that is going through there, what is sensitive, what is internal, and what is actually public. And it also tells you where the data is coming from. Yes, engineering has been very bad. It is 89% of it. Top departments using the shadow AI. Engineering sees there's a lot of benefit to it. It's been getting a little crazy. You can see the alerts. So it'll tell you if there's any sensitive data. I went and made this me, so I am the bad person here. Gorman at myfake.com. I was bad. I went and uploaded 42 megs of patient data records in PHI. So it was HIPAA data that I went and did it. High risk. It'll tell you that. So all of this is logged, and you could actually hold people accountable. All of these names are made up, by the way, too. So don't think I'm outing anybody here. Policies, you can see my policies that I've set. Very easy to toggle them on or off. Set them up, active, scheduled alerting. It'll come in and actually do things there for you. And then investigate. I can see my risk score. Again, my apps that are used, my data uploaded, my policy violations, and it'll tell me when, who, what. Here's that. This is me. I was really, really bad. You can see that right there. And again, you can export all of this. The other thing we have here is a risk analysis report. This comes from there. If you saw this here in the cloud discovery, analyze risks, if you click that in the actual full dashboard, the real dashboard, it'll bring you up into this, which is your risk analysis report. And it'll show your shadow AI risks, and it'll take you through and it'll tell you your risk summary. It'll go through and give you your risk score, tell you what you have to be concerned with, how many AI apps. We already know this. We've got 73, 18 new this month. It takes you all the way through it. It'll tell you what you need to be worried about, what concerns, who did what. Like I said, Kate Gorman was really, really bad. I don't think she should be allowed in these databases anymore, maybe even on the network. And then you have your risk matrix, your data sensitivity breakdown, shadow AI by department, and then it gives you some information about your top users and your regulatory exposure. So you have all of this, and then gives you recommendations of how to address it. Any questions on what I went through right there, since I know I'm going through this pretty fast? If not, I will tell you, these will be zipped up with my presentation. I will put it all up in my 2026 presentations too, so you have that. And we'll go back.
Actually, the photo was perfect for me, very easy to understand, if that's okay.
Excellent. So if you're looking at this, I know a lot of you are like, what does this cost? I'm not going to go into cost, but I will go into licensing, because the licensing, I think, is kind of complex. You got Office 365 Cloud App Security, and it tells you everything that's included and what isn't. The actual MDCA, if you get the full E5, that's what it does. And it does 34,000 plus apps. The next two will cover, everything. And what you saw in that analysis, what I was working with was what I did was the standalone add-on, by the way, which is the third one in this list, that goes across everything. SaaS, applications, on-prem, it'll do all of it. And it works with Entra ID. I had P2 on this one, so I had all of it. So if you look at, I had everything and the kitchen sink is what I was doing. So I had the third one here, the standalone add-on, and it has a per user cost per month. So if you have, your operations team, your security people that are responsible for this, that's what that cost is going to be on there. And of course, I'm not going to go into cost because I've made it a career to stay out of licensing and cost as much as I humanly can. So if you're looking for something like this, and you're like, my folks are just not going to go for MS Defender, there is a lot coming up, and this changes constantly. But I put them in 3 categories: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So those that are CASB and SSE leaders, they have the strongest capabilities. Tier 2 is SaaS security posture identity, so you're not using as much. You don't need as much, and you may do a little bit on your own, more hand-built. And then Tier 3, purpose-built ones that you may do a lot of the building on your own. Tier one, Netscope, they are the top one right now. They have come out of nowhere and they have been creating products that can do data exfiltration, insider threats, shadow AI. They are top one. Zscaler, they have been doing phenomenal. They've been around for a little bit. They came out the same time as Defender for cloud apps, so they've been doing a great job. Same thing with Palo Alto Networks, their Prisma. They are doing a fantastic job as well. Sky High Security, they are new. They were previous McAfee is what they were known for, but that's who's behind them. And they can, of course, McAfee, security risk, they know it inside and out. They're now into the shadow AI world. Cisco Umbrella and CloudLock, DNS layer, they're going to stop it right at the network. It's never going to get in, and they actually block AI from going in or out. And then ForcePoint CASB, that one has reports. It's going to actually block shadow AI, and it has all those controls based on rules. So each of them work a little bit different, but it all is trying to do the same thing. Tier two, like I said, not as much, more on the SaaS side, and they're more like, we talked about the SWBs and things like that, and not as much on the CASBs. It might miss some of it, but you have to look at that. This works with personal credentials. It's looking at shadow AI, but not as deep. It can surface shadow AI when we do this, no matter what we're talking about, grip security, do controller, Obsidian security. They're looking mostly at SaaS. They're very locked into your actual applications that have AI built into it and more cloud level. And then tier three, security AI, Lasso Security, and Zentura. Zentura is brand new, by the way. These are shadow AI security. They are looking at CASB and SWG tools. Again, they're more on historical protection, but they've added in a few shadow AI tools. So data governance 101, we all know this. Data map, make sure sensitivity labels, label that data, make sure that you're doing your data lineage, make sure that you're actually doing data sensitivity, and then do DLP, your data loss prevention. Make sure you're protecting from PI, PHI, make sure your all your information, and not just inside your database, but across the board with all the data that is now becoming part of that democratization. Purview can do all of this, and Purview really does. There are new foundations in the Secure AI where they're saying they can do insider risk management, they can actually audit and have all these logs, all of that's in there. And there's something new called AI Hub. I haven't looked at this myself, but everything I read on it is that it gives you kind of this observability, this visibility into AI apps that are being used, what data they can access, and then you can set up policy and compliance to make sure that people are doing it right. So what might you do if you are somebody who has to do this? Because SWG and CASB were made for SaaS and not agentic AI, how are you going to actually do this? So if you had to do this 0 to 90 days, you might put in Purview, map all your data, no matter if it's M365, Azure storage, on-prem SQL, get those all mapped. Enable your Defender for cloud apps, start to discover what shadow AI tools are in use, and then implement the sensitivity labels as well, because they're going to need that. Make sure that that's all done. Phase 2, configure DLP policies, your data level, make sure your protection's in there. Label all of that. Block PII, PHI sharing, make sure those can't happen. Enable conditional access, make sure that's all set, especially in high-risk SaaS. SaaS is an issue, Defender has that all built into it. And then configure Azure OpenAI private endpoints with Enter RBAC for AI service. Make sure that's all built in too, and that's 90 to 180 days. Then 180 days plus, then you're going to build those internal reg solutions for OpenAI. Notice that I'm putting in reg after I've done all that. This is one of the challenges that we have, is that once you open up AI, it's like the floodgates, and you have, agentic AI and reg and agents and everything all over the place, and you're almost too late. So this is building internal reg solutions that will help for self-service data and Q&A to try to control that and make sure that it's not out of control and you don't have AI going to places that it should not. Roll out Copilot with sensitivity labels, filter it, and then Purview audit enabled, and then Instrument Security Copilot for SOC acceleration and automated incident triage. That will kind of give you that roadmap of how you're going to protect these. And from there, you should have secure AI with zero trust all built in. And it doesn't mean that your data has to be data chaos. Even if you have a data swamp, you will still have it all kind of under control and hopefully not have breaches that are of your own doing. You know, you can't guarantee that you'll never have a breach. It's more of a when, not an if, but you will be able to protect it. Know that you've done everything in your power with the security team, and it doesn't have to all be on you as the data professional. And with that, I am done. Up here in the top left is my QR code that will take you to my GitHub and my LinkedIn and all of that other stuff. And I'm very happy to share these slides as well as the sample graphs and everything. With that, I am finished. Any questions?
Yeah, there are some questions, but before we do that, let me
Yes.
stop the recording, then we can join with the chat and ask questions from there. I'm just stopping the recording right now.